he brings the idea of being a neighbor, showing up like a neighbor and showing merciful love. He brings that idea front and center to us. And he says, you got to notice people who are hurting that are nearby, and you got to notice the people that are even hard to love. So how do we do this? How do we show up to show merciful love to people in the community here? 4 ideas. We'll go through these quickly. Number 1, look around you. Look around you. Where you live, where do you see the hurt? Now, this isn't obvious. I drove here today from a hotel down the street, and it's nice out here. Like, streets look clean, the buildings look nice. It's not easy to see that there's hurt, but there is, right? You know, in your own neighborhood, you know that people are going through it. You know that people are struggling, but you have to actually look around you and notice it. I played on a co-ed soccer team as an adult. It was probably about 10 years ago. I was on a co-ed soccer team, and this was, you know how they have like competitive division and then rec division? This was rec division, okay? So we're real chill, okay? Let's not go crazy here. We're just out here to have some fun. Some adults running around playing some soccer. So we play this co-ed rec team, and this other team was beating our team 15-0. And now in soccer, that's 1,000,000 to 0, basically. Like that is horrible, okay? And they are just crushing us. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, yo, this is where you want to be like, can you guys go up to the competitive division? Because this is rec soccer. We are one step above playing soccer, holding a beer in our hands, like as we play. Like that's how competitive this should be, and y'all are taking it to another level. But I remember one thing, I don't know why I remember this, but I'm going up to try to get the ball from this guy. And his teammates on the other team, they are telling him, they say to him, hey, what do you see? What do you see? Because it's easy when you're playing to look down at the ball. And what they were telling him was, lift your head up. Where are your teammates? What do you see coming at you? What do you see from all the directions? Just pick your head up and notice. That's how you're going to play the game well. And I think there's something to that. Rather than just get so in my thing and get focused on exactly what's in front of me, look around you. Pick your head up. What do you see? What's going on out there? That's actually what the Samaritan does. Other people saw the guy on the side of the road, but he really saw. He was like, oh, wait, there's a need here. And when we look, we start seeing things in a little bit of a different light. When we look around us, we see the elderly widow in our neighborhood. We see the single mom who needs some extra help. We see the crisis pregnancy center that could use some support. We see these things when we look around. So number 1 is look around you. Number 2, start small. We get really inspired by people who slay the big dragons, and the move in culture where we take on the big thing. And man, you guys are suburbs of DC. This is the place for like, let's take on the big thing and make a federal change to this let's change the whole country by this policy or this idea. And so we're really inspired by that. We think that the problems of the world are going to be solved by like these macro solutions, and we think, oh, I could fix the whole system. So, and I get it. My wife and I we got trained to become foster parents in 2011, and this was us wanting to make a difference in the lives of some kids. And we go, okay, we could do this. We have a good home. We have 3 boys in our house, but we could bring in more, and we could foster some kids. And so we got into the system. But me not being content with making the difference for a kid or trying to make a difference for a kid, I was like, we could fix the whole system because the foster care system in Virginia has just got a lot of problems, and let's get in there. So I got involved in the state in Richmond and started this whole thing. We started this whole thing called Change Who Waits, and we got organizations, and we had rallies, and we had people coming together. And the idea was let's get Christians in churches to step up and adopt or foster from the foster care system. And it was great. That organization, I've since passed it on to someone else. It's going strong. It's better than when I ran it. It's going well, and they're doing good work there to try to slay the big dragon. But like, not everybody has the time for that, and not everybody is wired up that way to do that. That's probably not a good move for everybody. But what everybody can do is kind of start small and make a difference for one, right? That's what the Samaritan does. You know, if we were the Good Samaritan, we would go, we would probably see that guy lying on the road. We would walk by and we would go, I should lobby city council for better road safety. Like there's probably like a systemic problem here, and we should go get better road safety. We should probably increase policing in this area because it's not quite right. And we would look at these like large systems, and not to say we shouldn't ever look at large systems. But what this guy does is go, I can't fix the whole thing, but there's one guy in front of me and he needs help. And so I make the difference for that guy. In another parable Jesus tells, he talks about sheep and goats in Matthew 25. And he says this thing that we misquote all the time. He says, whatever you do for the least of these, you have done for me. That's how we misquote it, right? We think that what Jesus says is, whatever you do for the least of these, you have done for me. What he actually says is, for whatever you do for one of the least of these, you have done for me. You don't have to fix the whole system. He doesn't tell you to do that. He's like, look, just start where you are. Start small. Make a difference for one. I can't fix the foster care system. Can I make a difference for one? Yeah, I think so. So look around you. Number 2, start small. Number 3, link up with others. All of us are stronger than one of us, right? When we come together, because God is moving in our hearts and is like, here's some things you can do. There are larger things we can tackle, but that happens when we all kind of come in and do our little part, when we pool our efforts. And there's tons of opportunities to pool your efforts here at this church. I was asking Brett and Pat, and I was like, hey, where is New Life dialed in? And it's not hard to get an answer on that because you guys do a lot of stuff. They told me about Passion for Community and the work that you've been doing there. And just in this calendar year, you have helped 245 people. You've donated 121 new beds and 2,575 items to people in need. And that's just up through July. That's super cool, right? Like, it's amazing what is happening through the community here. In addition to that, you've got a care team, 100 plus people that are involved in that have served 40 different families. There's a ton of stuff, a ton of needs within this church and in the community here that are being met by this church, and it's fantastic. And some of those become numbers on a spreadsheet somewhere, and they go, okay, we donated this many items, we gave this many beds. But some of them are just quiet things that Christian people do within the churches to serve, that are people showing up and providing meals for a family with a newborn, or people who are grieving because they just lost their dad, and this other family will show up for them and kind of walk with them at times. Just people picking up their kids from this thing, or becoming respite care foster parents so they can take kids for a weekend. And there's just like a ton of stuff that happens in this church that's not, public. It's not always like, oh, we're broadcasting that. It's not in the paper. It's not, they're not bragging about it on social media. There's just things that are quietly happening as the people of the church step up, link up with each other, and they pool their time and their money and their resources, and they come alongside and show merciful love and help, which is fantastic. The Good Samaritan does this also. Notice he links up with others in the story. He takes this man to the inn and gives the man a lot of money and says, take care of this guy here at your inn, and if you need more money, I'll give you that too. And so he has that to offer, and he gives that, and he basically links up with someone else to help solve the problem, solve the situation. Why does he do that? Because we can do more when we do it together. So link up with others. And number 4 is this, stick with it. Stick with it. We could shine a light on a problem, on a situation, and you could step in and address it one time, and then we're done. So our church does an Advent offering. We sort of tackle different projects in the month of December every year, and it's so easy to stand up there and say, we're going to talk about food insecurity and for this month, and we're going to do this thing, and we're going to raise this money, and we give this thing, and we do the thing, and then we're done, and we're like, we did the thing for Advent. Wasn't that great? We're done here. That was awesome. Or we'll have a serving day. Hey, the weather's nice out today. Let's all come out and clean up this alley or clean up this thing. We're going to do this thing. And we all do that, and it feels good, and it's fantastic. And I love that we're able to do it. But this needs to be something we stick with and not something you just sort of show up one time and drop in on. Showing mercy And showing merciful love is a lifelong pursuit. This is not like, oh, I did it once and that was good. Let's say it this way. Merciful love has to be our posture, not a gesture, right? It has to be our posture and not just a gesture. Because if it becomes a posture of our lives, that's when we actually see systems change over the long haul, when we do something and we stick with it. Now, the writers of the New Testament knew that we get fatigued, we get mercy fatigue or compassion fatigue, we get worn out. And so the Apostle Paul actually writes about kind of that idea in Galatians 6. Listen to what he says. Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Paul says, hang in there, guys. Stick with it. Do the thing and then do it again. Because he knows that we grow weary. Yeah, we grow weary of politics and arguments and social media and grinding to make that dollar, and we grow weary of all those things, sure. But we also can dial in and start helping, and that can wear us out too. And Paul says, no, stick with it, because if you do, there's a season where you're going to reap. There will be a harvest. And we're not an agrarian society, so we don't think in those terms of like you do the hard work of planting something and then one day you get to harvest it. But that's what Paul is saying. Like, stick with this. There's a harvest for this. You're going to keep sowing seed, and eventually you're going to reap something, and it's going to be great.